All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Deborah and Jill. My name is Claudia, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. From the Susan Fairfax City. We are very grateful that Deborah Martin and Jill Haley accepted our invitation to our show. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Jill,
you.
the first question goes to you. Were you born like in a musical family? How old were you when you perhaps began taking, I don't know, guitar lesson or piano lesson that all the little kids do?
Yeah. Well, I was born where we had a very sad day yesterday because the Buffalo Bills lost a game, the football
Oh,
team.
all right.
I was born in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
Somewhat of a musical family. Appreciated music, not professional musicians. But I started on the piano at 6 or 7 years old, and just I still love playing it. I've been playing it and teaching it, and at 6 o'clock tonight I'll be down there teaching again. So I still teach private students a lot, and do a lot of my own musical stuff too, and of course work with Deborah. So yeah, lots of different stuff.
And then when you were you like in any band in the high school or in the equivalent of?
I was very fortunate to live in a suburb of Buffalo that had an excellent music department. So we had an
Yeah.
outstanding music department, which really stressed that students study privately, and there was a lot of pressure put on you to do well. So I appreciate that now. I appreciate that now at this point in my life that the pressure was there to really work hard. But yeah, I mean, as far as high school, no, I was just a very classical musician, orchestras and bands and stuff like that, concert bands. Yeah.
So your parents knew back then that music will be your profession. They didn't put any pressure on you to do something else or go to medical school or study law or whatever. They knew back then that music was
Yeah,
a
they,
thing.
no, they weren't crazy about going into music, but I got a degree in music therapy, which somewhat
Yeah.
allied their nervousness because I thought, well, at least she'll get a job where she can make a little bit of money to support herself. So I did do music therapy and worked with mental health for a few years, and then kind of segged over to doing more of my own music and playing a lot of orchestras and stuff. Yeah.
Good for you. Nowadays, a lot of, with the state of the economy and schools, high school need to cut budget, and most of the time music will get, the budget is going to be sliced in 25% or 50% or whatever. And a lot of kids give up on piano early in life or guitar lesson.
Mhm.
It's difficult, not just for musicians, for artists in general,
Oh yeah.
painters and writers. And
Hmm. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's very difficult. So I'm glad that, they were put this record label together because people all over the world can listen to great music, and especially with the stressful time that we live in, so it's
Yeah.
always Spotted Pickery up there with the app or the website or Bandcamp for them to buy and listen music. This is the second collaboration with the two of you, right?
Yes.
All right. So feel free to elaborate how the first one happened. How the two of you met actually, Jill? Jill and
Oh, well, boy, Deborah. Um, Back, I'm not even sure what year, but everything in my life seems to be pre-pandemic and post-pandemic.
Sure.
So it was a few years before the pandemic. So we met down in New Orleans at a Zone Music Reporter conference, I guess you'd call it, Deborah, or they had an
The
annual.
awards and
Yeah. Oh, right. They had an award ceremony. The Zone Music Reporter I'm assuming you're familiar with that, Claudio. They track ambient music and
Yeah.
new age kind of music. Anyway, I'm not sure how relevant they are anymore. I'm not sure if they're still even doing anything. But anyway, we met there and we just talked. And I think I played there. I think that's where you heard me, Deborah. Yeah. So I actually was one of the artists that was invited to play that year with my husband who plays the guitar. So yeah, we just chatted there, and then I don't think anything happened then for a few years. We talked about vaguely maybe doing something together, but then time passed, and then I believe you just reached out, Deborah. Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we we met at two different ZMR awards. The first one Jill was playing, and she was at the awards thing. And Jill is phenomenal on oboe and English horn. And I love those instruments. And I've been wanting to do some recordings with that. So I sought her out after the ceremonies and stuff, and we had a chance to talk, and I introduced myself to her, and I told her I just loved it. And I said, maybe we'll get a chance to do something one day. So we exchanged information, and we did, Jill. We emailed back and forth and then the following year I was at ZMR again with there was some artists there, and I ended up accepting an award for someone that couldn't be, but we were there and we talked again, and we actually went out somewhere to eat or something.
I remember eating, I think it was part of their dinner that they had there. Yeah.
Yes. And we did. And that time we more solidified what we wanted to do, because we had a lot of similar interest and backgrounds in terms of music, things that we had done. And so because of that, I think the following year we made arrangements, and Jill went all the way from the East Coast to where I am here in Washington State. And we spent a couple of weeks, and we alternated between going out in nature and taking a lot of photographs, just absorbing the places, looking at mountains and nature in general. And then we'd go back in the studio, and Jill said, just leave me in here. I got to put down my ideas, which was great. And so she sketched out her thoughts and impressions of what we had been outside exploring. And we did that for 2 weeks, every other day. And then when those ideas got down, then I just recorded her with the oboe and English horn so that I would have the ideas, to work with. And then she had to get back, so she left. And while she was gone, it took me over a year of really, we talked on the phone, we emailed back and forth about the concepts and the theme of the project. And we came up with the title, The Silence of Grace, because we wanted it to be something very respectful of nature and its surroundings and all of the impressions that people have when they're out in that way. And that was a huge success, because I don't think that type of recording had been done that way before, matching the actual live classical instrumentation and ideology of that type of composition with the electronic and a lot of other ambient sounds. And I wanted to marry those together to see what we would come up with. And the results were, I thought they were phenomenal. It got excellent reviews. Yeah. And then, so of course we wanted to do another project. So what was it? Last year it came out, Into the Quiet.
Yes.
And it was last year.
Before that we recorded, though. There's always like a year. Yeah.
Like a year in between, before, after
Yes.
recorded, mastering, processing, and
Yeah.
finishing.
And then, and Jill came out again. And this time she wanted to take a few days of, R&R and explore the area. So we ended up only working about 8 days or 9 days together.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
We knew we were comfortable. We knew what we wanted to do. And then we just had to go through the theme of what we were going to do in terms of how do we go from the silence of grace. And I think I said one day, well, we'll go from the silence of grace into the quiet. And that's how we came up with that, more of an introspective release instead of an external one out in nature. So we went deeper, and I am very pleased with the results. It got superb reviews. As a matter of fact, Jill, did you see that? I just sent Jill a message. We were number 4 on the NACC.
Oh, yeah. I remember Taylor
year for 2023.
We beat Taylor Swift.
Yeah, for the
That's a big deal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we beat Taylor Swift. She was number 9 out of the top 10. We were number 4. And then another Spotted Peccary artist, Craig and Marvin, from their 3rd release was number 5. On that, we're making some phenomenal headway. It's getting a lot of airplay. I was so shocked when Beth sent that to me. I figured she would have sent it to you too, Jill. Maybe not.
I got it a few weeks ago. I saw that a few weeks ago. Because of course I had to share it. I share everything on my social media, and then everybody says, wow, you beat Taylor.
I know, that was so funny. I'm looking at that going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And even Brian Eno, he was number 7.
Right, that's what somebody said too.
Oh yeah, Brian. So we had 2 spots, and I just don't. I take that with very humble thankfulness that people are listening to this music, because it really does make a statement, to be recognized by people that are understanding the importance of the true art of creating music and the craft of it. That is it shows the value of all the time we've spent working on this with our craft. And I love that. So that was cool.
Your record, I mean, your record label, Deborah, you're very humble. I mean, many artists that I have interviewed or people that I talk to, look at, Spotted Pickery as the place to be, because you guys run a very well professional organization, where the main idea is not making a lot of money and give a little money for person like Jill, but having a good collaboration, producing great artwork. Every cover you guys produce, they're Daniel Pipiton, I think does it. They're very well put together. I'm an engineer, so I'm still I always look at the phone, the use, the art design, and it's very good stuff. And so people look up to you guys, to the record label, and say, everybody want to be associated with Spotted Bakery, so it's
well,
good for
thank you for that. Thank you so much for saying that. Daniel is a wonderful creative artist. For the Silence of Grace album, Jill and I took photographs of all the nature scenes while we were out, and Daniel took those photos. I spent time, and Jill showed which ones she liked, and then I went back and forth with Daniel, and he took those and made them look like watercolor paintings for the artwork. And we had a nice booklet with that. So those were actual photographs that we took when she was here, the first project. And then the second one, all I could do was describe to him about going inward, and he came up with the cave scene of the light going into the cave.
Yeah.
And I just love that conceptually. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
He's very, very talented. I believe, Jill, that you were, obviously you were an accomplished symphony orchestra player, but you were up here as a guest in some of the Will Ackerman record label as well.
I'm still working with him to this day. Actually, he's up in Vermont, and yes, was on a couple of his recordings, a couple of Windham Hill things, and then he has Imaginary Road Studios up in Vermont, and he does a lot of producing other people's recordings. So he often invites me to come up and dabble a little bit on their pieces and add a little bit of oboe or English horn, and it's just so fun, and it's been such an influence on how I create music and improvise, and have learned as I get older that less is actually more. And that is a lesson that Mr. Will has taught me that sticks with me to this day. That, why use two notes when you can use one note? And at first I get so mad at him. I'd say, I got this great line. And he'd say, no. But, you listen in retrospection and go, wow, maybe the guy was actually right. He knows what he's doing. So, no, he's a good
after
guy.
that many years, after that cricket is a record label, he cannot be wrong, right? So
right. Yeah.
Plus, he's a very nice person as well. I had the opportunity to interview him, and I talked to, I think the interview was like 2.5 hours, something like that. So this is amazing. He has so many good stories, and plus he's a very decent person. I like that, so. And the first album, the Silence of Grace, I think I was reading somewhere that they include the Sonic Music Report that make the top 20 on the album of the year as well.
Yeah,
that's a big deal, because think about how many submission are submitted to on somebody to make the decision and listen to all the stuff and make different gradients or so forth under each category of music. So that's great. That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, it was a surprise. Both of these albums have been on a lot of top lists at the Echoes radio station. John DiLiberto, he's given a lot of airplay. It was in the top 20 from the Silence of Grace, and then the Into the Quiet, he's given it a lot of airplay, but they both made on a lot of lists. I have no idea where they end up. We send the music out there and it gets where it gets, but I'm very pleased that it got such recognition and such great reviews of everything that we've worked on. So it's very exciting to see that. And hopefully the bottom line is that the listeners and the people who hear the music are going to get that they're going to get something out of that. It'll be fulfilling to them. So that's important.
Is it fair to say that when the two of you were working, especially in this one into a choir, which is, in my opinion, a masterpiece, you know that as you were recording that or releasing the album, that you have something great? I mean, every artist want to say that, but in reality,
We
or
didn't have
not.
a clue.
Really?
It just seemed to fit together, though, the
Yeah.
elements and the sounds. I mean, I had laid down some tracks on one of them, the Sleeping Giants one maybe, or Reaching the Ambient, and I had just
Yeah.
laid down some textural beds of sounds because I tried to put myself, if I was a sleeping giant, what would I sound like, right? And came up with sounds. And then I played it for Jill and I said, we got to have oboe and English horn on this, because what would they do if they're waking up? And so she completely came up with, she had the headset on and I was playing that. And she, as she was listening to the music, she went into the space that she would go into and played totally what she felt was appropriate for that melodic part of the oboe or the English horn. And some of the songs, we had both parts in there. And after she left, I kind of married them together. So you'll hear some oboe and English horn talking to each other, having a conversation. And how would you bring that to life? A sleeping giant, if it were to wake up, how would it come to life on the recording? So I tried to put myself in that kind of a headspace. Or Reaching the Ambient, if you were floating. Let's say you were laying down on the earth and looking up at the sky. What if you allowed yourself to leave your body and float up to the heavens? What would that feel like? So we needed a lightness to it. And I remember that one, Joe, because you got all excited and said, oh, I know what I'm playing on this. And you played a beautiful part on that. And again, we used both instruments. And she even played some concert flute on one of the tracks. And that was really fun. That was nice because it gave another element into it. And then Hollow Whispers, of course, we know that was really a lovely piece. That was,
Yeah.
Right.
Halloween piece. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Haunting.
Because the two of you live, in opposite coasts, one in the east or the west, they need to send back files back and forth. You like this, can't you try that? The piece is too long, it's too dark, and so forth.
Mhm.
And imagine that's what it takes,
Mhm.
like a year or so, right? To put
Yeah, Deborah
a
sends
record together, right?
she sends music files to me and I listen to them and give her feedback. And on the last one, I didn't have too much feedback because she did a lot of the preliminary work and it sounded good. So I just was pretty happy with it. And but definitely these days, everything that we have, like what we're doing right now, I mean, this has all just opened up ways for people like Deborah and me to work together, even though we live on opposite coasts. And I'm sure you also work, Deborah, with people in other countries too. I mean, it just all comes together.
Yeah, but my preference, of course, which is why we did these albums the way we did them, was to work in person. There's such an exchange of energy when you're actually with the person, physically present in the studio, where one idea sparks another, and then you both get energized by that, and you're creating right there the spontaneity of the moment. And I much prefer that. I think that yeah, something gets lost if you record a part and send it to someone, they record it, send it back. To me, that it's not that it lessens the impact of it, but that doesn't have the same enriching experience as actually working with somebody, in the studio. So if I have to, I would do that, but my preference is to work together. So hence, we're going to work on another project and Jill's going to come out again.
I use it as a good excuse to take a vacation in the Pacific Northwest and take my husband along. But what I meant, just so you know, I didn't mean recording remotely. I meant just sharing the files. Like when you did a rough mix, you would send them to me.
Oh yeah, so she could
That's
hear
what
it.
Yeah, I didn't mean record. I agree with you. I don't like to record. I mean, I have to sometimes if people want to use me, then I do it. But
it's more magical, I think, when you're working with the person. Every album I've ever done has been in person. With Dean on the two I've done with Dean so far with Desensitized, he came here and we worked. Even Eric Wallow, the first album we did was done. He traveled to me and then I went to Norway. So, I mean, we worked together and it's just magical. So that's important. But I think for what Jill and I are doing, I think that's an important component of having that, the life part of it in the recording. And it's a deeper, enriching experience. I think it helps make the recordings come to life in a deeper way by doing that, even with electronic sound. But having live recordings in that, yeah.
But that's usually what is required. They would have like a 2 weeks residency with the artist, so he or she fly into your home state and then take a couple of days off, get to know the person, so forth, and then start working on it within the 2 weeks before the person leave, go back home, and then you do your thing, and then you begin working and putting the album together and so forth, right?
Yep, pretty much. But we talk about everything first and make sure. I don't like to just do something and assume that the other artist, in this case, my friend Jill, I would never assume that I could just say something and she would just take it and go, okay, sure. No, I lay out everything and say, this is what I think. What do you think? And I have a very vivid imagination and I will make up song titles and stuff. And they seem to, they'll come together in a theme. But this last album, Jill had that's what sparked the whole Into the Quiet album. She came up with a song title and she said, I've got one. I envision the violet plant, that beautiful dark plant that comes out, and so she wanted to call one of the tracks Violet Night. And I at first thought she said Violent Night, and I was horrified. I'm like, what kind of an album is this going to be? And then I realized, oh no, she's talking about the flower, the violet.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So this album is very sublime, pastoral sound, if you will. Do people contact the record label, that any one of you, to somehow use this particular or the tracks from this album for commercial or soundtrack, or do anything like that has happened in the past when people can, go ahead.
Yeah, all of our music is available for being licensed, and we get many, many, many requests. I've got a couple pending right now, and one of them will be dealing with some of our tracks, Jill. So I never say anything until it's a done deal, because sometimes they'll put the music in, and then in the editing it says, oh, well, it didn't work out, we had to change the scene or whatever. So I wait till it's all done and the agreements in place and everything, and then we can notify the artist and stuff about what's doing. We get lots of requests for students at universities working on film projects that they need for their class project, and we will let them use the music for that, with the understanding that if it gets into a commercial thing, then there would have to be a licensing.
Yeah.
But any of our artists' music is available to license, and we get tons of requests. So we deal with each one as they come.
Because when I was preparing questions for this interview and listened to the album again, there are like 2 or 3 tracks that they could be licensed, could be used like in a commercial or in a movie or whatever, so it's good to have that people can, reach out to you, get a hold of you, and in a way create a different income stream, for that kind of stuff. Especially I like the Sleeping Giant. It's a beautiful. Nobody will deny that. I'm not telling you if you're new that you don't know, but for a connoisseur, a listener, it's a beautiful track. So
thank you. Thank you very much.
And is it possible to ask you about what's the next record that you are trying to put together? Have some idea? Is Jill going to be flying to?
Oh yeah, we picked out. I have to do things way in advance because the schedule gets a little cluttered. But yeah, I'm flying out in August, and I'm going to go just explore for a week and then come over to Deborah's for a week and
Yeah.
told her to start sending me some ideas if she has some ideas. And I'll send her some ideas if we want to do a little prep before. We haven't really talked about it, but I think that'll be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about it right now. Here, let me give you the list of all the song titles, Jill. No.
Yeah.
The
So
theme of it,
so who start first? Jill, you have an idea about some piece in your head that you will send Deborah ahead of time and before you fly there, and because
Well, what I
you always, I suppose I'm not a musician, but as a musician you're always coming up with ideas, right? Whether you go to a supermarket or you turn on the TV or you listen to football or whatever you do in your spare time, it's always ideas or writing stuff or writing names or writing chords, right?
Well, what I do is I find a tremendous amount of inspiration from nature. So I go and
Yeah.
spend time in, like I just spent some significant amount of time in Shenandoah National Park as an artist in residence, where I got to live there for 3 weeks and write music about it. So I actually just go and experience something, or that's what I try to do. I go for a walk along a beach, and then I start hearing the water rippling, so I'll go to my keyboard and start making up some rippling chords
Yeah.
and all that, whatever, rippling lake stuff, whatever, but all my music that I do independent of Deborah is pretty much national park music that's been inspired by the parks and by the scenery in the parks. With Deborah's music, it was more, we went for walks, like she initially said, during the day. And then I went back and I just imagined being in this, like a forest sanctuary kind of place, and made up some chords. So I am very chordal when I start. I start with chords.
Yeah.
On a piano, I think harmonically. And then she takes them, and Lord knows what she does to them. She moves everything around and spits it back at me, and I go, oh my goodness. But yeah, it's really cool how it all just kind of evolves. But that's where I get my inspiration is pretty much that way. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Yep,
yep,
that's great.
remember the first time, Jill, she's very much a classical composer and can do all of those things. Very, very talented, of course. And I was trying to explain to her, okay, so she went in and played the piano part and had these full chords, beautiful chords. And then I kind of, I think, pulled Will Ackerman on her and said, there's too many notes. And I
Get
said,
rid of this, get rid of that, make it simpler.
here's the chord. And no, what I did is I asked her to do this, and this is difficult, but she did it beautifully. I asked her if she could play the right hand by itself, and I recorded that. And then I asked if she could just play the left hand part by itself. And then what I did is I took the sound, we just had a plain piano sound in there, and I said, now watch this, Jill. And I took and assigned a different sound to the left hand, and then a different sound to the right hand. And then I added a ambient wash that was weaving in and out of that. And I said, now what do you think? And I remember her eyes got big and she goes, that's my piano part? Oh,
Yeah.
and I said, yeah, I'm not done with it yet, but that's kind of the idea. And then, of course, recording the oboe and English horn over it. But it became more of, we both did the composition, but I ended up doing some arranging a little bit, rearranging some of the parts. There were parts where I wanted the instruments all talking to each other. So I would just kind of edit them a little bit. And then I would send that to Jill and ask her to listen to it. And she did have some very specific comments about how the actual notes of the oboe and English horn, they cannot, sometimes when you're playing live, you know how you get a little honky sound or something when you hear orchestras. And she was very specific about the cleanliness. She wanted those notes to be beautiful coming in or going out. And so I literally edited every single note that needed that. And there weren't that many, but still I understood what she was saying. And that was a very specific request, which it was important. And I think it paid off because of what you hear. The sound is so smooth. It's just
Oh yeah.
like melting butter. It's just like beautifully and that's how I looked at it, like honey pouring over something or melting butter when those notes slide in so subtle, the subtleties. And I think that's important in this type of music for sure, especially when you're combining the electronics and the acoustical instruments. So it was
I
fun.
need to go get a charger. I just noticed my battery is getting low. So you guys, I'll be back in about 30 seconds.
Okay.
No problem. So they were how nowadays, as you know, right? Fewer and fewer people are buying CDs and vinyl. How you guys are able to keep the company afloat? I mean, you have all the albums and CDs that load on Bandcamp. It's good enough as a source of income to keep the record label going, because art need to be pay and somebody to put the cover together and then mastering and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, people don't work for free, right? People need to get paid, and musicians need to travel to see you and spend a 2 weeks residency. And on the other hand, licensing could be it doesn't pay off all the time, and fewer people, keep on. It's not the case in my case, but fewer people keep on buying less CDs, less vinyl, and so forth. And what's how you make how you keep the company afloat for that sense.
Well, other than winning the lottery, no, it's a delicate balance these days. There's still a huge age group out there that wants that physical, the tactile. They want to hold that in their hand.
Correct.
I personally know a lot of people that buy vinyl, but they never play the vinyl. They want that artwork. They frame it. They've got walls of vinyl hanging on their wall. They don't buy it because they want to play it on a record player. And I grew up listening to vinyl because my father's. I have thousands of record albums at my parents' home that will come to me at some point. But that was the medium back then, and there are still groups. I think in Europe, more people are into the vinyl thing, but there are people that will buy everything. They'll buy the vinyl, they'll buy the CD, and they'll buy the download because they want it in every medium possible. So what we do, we have the CDs available. We do have a lot of artists that have a following of people that they want it on CD no matter what. So we will do that for those artists, and we still do it. The costs have gone up, but we futz with the numbers and how we do it and how many we manufacture at one time, to, kind of get that. But, and we've had some vinyl successes, but not every artist is going to be that. It's a very difficult process. And it takes a lot of time and testing to get the vinyl just right. It's a different mastering process altogether. We've also done some of the Dolby Atmos, recording. We have some releases that are going to be done with that, which is digital only. And then we have the digital downloads, and we have those available in the 24-bit versions that people can download for the audio files out there. Excuse me, I have to cough.
Okay, don't worry.
But with that in mind, I think having a variety of the options available affords all the listeners out there to try it. So at Bandcamp, they can download anything, of course, but we also offer the physical medium because we've got, it's still happening. We're at about I'd say 50-50 or 60-40 download versus CDs. So we're still there. And we do have mainstream distribution worldwide through a physical media distributor.
Yeah.
And so they get our CDs or vinyl out to wherever there's still stores that still want to sell it, or customers will ask for it. So I think with enough of a variety, someone could download an MP3, and if they love it, they turn around and they buy the higher quality, the FLAC or the other, or they'll buy the CD and get the download. We do it in different ways to allow the listener to have it in different forms. And it seems to be working for now. And you're right. The artists are the ones doing the music. So we want the money to go to the artist as much as possible. The
Right.
overhead that we have gets covered by the sales. It's a very fine line. We don't charge. I know some people are charging $30 for a CD now because of the cost that it takes for them to manufacture it, or $20. We still keep our costs down. We look at how much it costs us to make it, and then we add on enough to cover shipping supplies, postage, manufacturing costs, our internet. We have to pay for all of those things. And so we make it balance out somehow. And Howard, John, and myself, as the owners, we have pretty regular meetings where we'll look at the current dollar amounts of what gets charged for doing what, and then we'll find other resources if we need to make it work, so that the artists are still making enough, as much as possible. And of course, for the collaboration with Jill and I, we share 50-50 the artist parts for composition and for the royalties and everything. So that's, one thing to consider too. If for Jill's own projects, like she's done, like she said, the artist in residency and things, she's done all of that. So she's the 100% composer, and all the monies would go to her for those sales. So she's very, resourceful in that, right? So it just depends.
Yeah. Also, as your sole artist, though, you also have all the expenses, of course.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, and the label absorbs that, of course, so the artist isn't having to pay all of those things. However, when it comes to promotional stuff, I'll spend money on promotions. I've done that for these 2 albums out of my pocket, feeling that it was important if we needed to do a little, promotion somewhere here or there. I do it because we want the music to be heard by as many people as possible. We don't do a lot of that pay-to-play thing. The label has an advertising budget, and we get the CDs out to reviewers and interviewers. And I think that's very important, because I think that if the reviewers and the interviewers and the radio people that get it, if they play it, whoever's on their radar is going to hear it and know about it. So,
no, absolutely. As I said before, this album is a masterpiece, and I would say that if the majority, if not all of I have not listened to all the CDs and all the artists that are associated with your record label, but every one that you have sent me on a monthly basis, and you send me boxes, and they're very good. I mean, it's not an accident. It's not an accident that great musicians are associated with your record label, and the quality of the product, the 24 beats, and the design, the logos, and everything is taken into consideration. So it's as I said before, I'm detail oriented. I look into things. I'm an engineer. I always try to analyze not just the music, but the cover and the presentation. I go to the website, how it's put together, and whether there are typos or not. I mean, it's a very well run company. So you and Howard are doing an excellent job. And then, so only a subset of the album so they are always going to be, the physical download CD, digital, and a percent of them will have a vinyl release as well, if possible.
Some of them, not all of them. And certain artists will have the CDs. For example, mine and Jill's will have a CD for this 3rd one that we're doing, because it does sell, and we want the physical collection to be, in total. So, but some artists, we have a couple of artists that are very, very heavy electronic, metallic sounding, or industrial sounding per se. Their niche is a smaller group of people. They don't really, that particular genre or that particular area, the listeners, they don't want a CD. They download. They're all on the media, on their phones, on whatever, device they have. They don't care about that. They want the digital booklet. So we create a digital booklet, obviously. So some of the releases we do will only be a digital download.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
We've had some that have been digital download only, and they've done very, very well. One of them that comes to mind is Biome was a release we did digital only, and it was like a racehorse out of the gate at band camp. We couldn't believe it. It was just going out the door, and it was all download, but it was that style of music. So we do have some albums that are download only, because we have to look at what the music is doing and what the audience is going to be. And some of the audiences, they don't care about the physical media. I know several people that have ordered CDs for many years, and the first time I saw it happen, I almost had a heart attack because I was not used to that. But this woman, I've known her for years, she would get the CD of what she wanted, and the first thing she would do is she'd undo the wrapping. She'd take the CD, stick it in her computer, download it, and then she'd toss the CD in the trash. And I'd be like, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "Well, I don't need it. It's on my computer now, and I can play it anywhere. So I just got it so I could get the music." Now, that was before iTunes came into play, of course. But her trash can was full of CDs. I go, "Oh my God, what are you?" And I've seen several people do that, and it was a shock. Now I'm not shocked about it, but I'm like, don't you want to give those to somebody that might like to have the CD? "Oh no, they can get their own." And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So digital download has its
Nice. Yep.
advantages to those that only want that. They don't want the physical taking up space, and you got the people doing streaming. And although some of that I'm not happy about, because I think that the artists are not getting paid enough, but I'm only one person.
So I want to put you on the spot nowadays. So, a good example would be Spotify, right? So for me, Spotify is great because I pay $10, right? And I can listen to thousands of artists all over the world, different genres, make recommendation. I can listen to a track a million times and only pay $10 a month. So, but for you guys on the other end, that's a ripoff, because you need to, in order to get a check for $10, you need to have like a million hits, or a million folks all over the world need to listen to that, which is very fair. What's the answer? The answer lies in between. What can be done to be fair to the artist, so they can get paid a fair amount instead of getting pennies?
Well, personally, for me, I think that in all fairness,
Yep.
if these platforms are going to use the music and charge people a subscription fee like yourself, they're making a lot of money off of the subscriptions by all the people who want instant access to all of this music at a moment's notice, and they can pick whatever they want. I think that there should be, I don't know the answer to it, but my feeling is it would be much fairer for the people creating the music if there was a standardized fee, no matter what platform people are downloading from. If they're paying a monthly fee, that a certain amount of that subscription should be set aside for a lump fund to be given to the artist based on the number of plays that artist is getting. So it's proportionately accurate and proportionately fair. So somebody that gets 100 hits, they're still going to get their 10 cents a download. But someone that gets 500,000 hits gets that same 10 cents. That means based on how popular they are or whatever, but it still gives everyone the fairness of getting the money. Now, I know for a fact, and this was a shocker to me, and it's Sirius XM, and kudos to them for doing this. If you sign up for a monthly subscription to Sirius XM, they have different tiers where you can just have it. When you pay the cheaper rate, you get it with ads and stuff, or you can pay. If you buy the Sirius XM membership to play in your car, they add on a fee to the monthly fee. And that money, it's like $2 for every subscriber, $2 or $3. It's mandated. And that money goes into the pool to pay artist royalties. on the airplay that they're getting. So they've come up with a model. It may not be a perfect model, but when I signed up to do it because they offered me Sirius XM for $4.99 a month for 2 years, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to do it," right? Instead of just the free trial period they give you when you get a car or something. I did it because number one, I like to track what music's being played, and when I was on the phone getting signed up for it, the young man who did explain to me, in addition to your $4.99 fee, we're going to be charging you $2 extra. And I said, "Is that for taxes?" And he goes, "No." He said, "We charge that to every subscriber. It goes to artist royalty. We have an artist royalty fund, and we mandate that so that we're fairly paying the artist when their music is used on our station." I loved that.
I love
said,
that. Yep.
It may not be a lot of money, but at least they're heading in a good direction. And so all that money is aggregated. And then when the artist gets paid for airplay, that number is divided by what stations they're on, how many they're on. And some people get quite huge checks because of that. And that does help support the artistry, which I think is important because that validates the creators of the music. We need to be validated in that way, I think, and not just be thought of as a cheap commodity that's going to get thrown to the wayside. That devalues what we do.
Absolutely.
So,
No, I completely. And a guy like me, right, that music is important to me. I listen to thousands of hours during the year. I go to a lot of concerts. I'm willing to pay more. I mean, $10 subscription is, 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks or whatever. I'm willing to pay more if and only if the money is set aside to go to the artist, right? And people all over the world are willing to pay more because everybody knows that Spotify, the owners are making millions of dollars, and the artists, like you said, get a check for $1, right? So they also need to be fair, and hopefully more people will complain. Like Taylor Swift, we mentioned before that she took her money. I'm sorry, her music out of Spotify, and many artists that they should have sold the same, right? If all the artists, all the big names all over the world complain, Spotify wouldn't exist as a business because they wouldn't have music to pay, right? So, and I think, as I said before, people are willing, I think, to pay a premium if that's the case. I would do it because I take advantage of it. I listen to, a track 100 times, many artists 100 times. With machine learning algorithm, they recommend me groups all over the world that never even heard, and I like based on the music I like. So I'm, listen to, I don't know, 2,000 songs a month, and I'm getting paid, and I pay $10, which is it's great for me, but it's in a way it's unfair for the artist, so.
Yeah. Well, there's so many platforms out there. You've got, and each one does do a different payment model. You've got Apple Music, you've got Amazon Music, you've got Pandora, you've got Spotify, of course, you have Sirius XM, and they're all different in terms of what they do. I would love to see, I know they're never going to standardize it because each company has their own corporate structure. They're never all going to agree on a standardized rate to pay the artist. I already know that's not ever going to happen. But it would be nice if there was some mandate that requires them to pay a certain amount,
Right. Yeah.
Now they're still trying to do that in Congress, I think, but it's not happening yet. There's been some headway, but not a lot. So we'll just see what happens.
Especially in the type of music, your genre, the record label, right? So, I don't know, a band like, I don't know, King Crimson, right? Will spend $100,000 recording a record and release a record, hire the best engineer, and they will go on the road and they will record the investment, with meet and greet, selling albums, selling T-shirts, selling memorabilia, and blah, blah, blah. So whatever the money is spent, they record them. In your case, the type of music associated with your record label, they were, you don't have many touring musicians and so forth, so they would not be able to record that is that way anyway. So
that's a different beast altogether because this music is timeless in a way.
Correct.
It'll be played for many, many years. And some of top 40 rockers, some of that stuff, it will become less and less as music tastes change, it may not be as big in the future. This music is like hearing a Mozart album. You can still listen to it. It is a
Absolutely.
timeless in that regard, I think. So we have longevity for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Anyways, go ahead, Jill.
I have a piece. I have a couple pieces from a trio that recorded in the 1980s that is still on the Spa channel, and we still get money from that. 1980s because it's instrumental acoustic music for guitars and oboe. So it
Right.
does. Longevity is wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
It just
I know you need to teach, Jill. I know you need to leave soon, but it was very nice
It's nice.
talking to you guys again. This album again, To the Quiet, it's a masterpiece. It's a very well album put together, and you will love it. So
Well, I'm
again, feel free to buy it
honored
and
here.
download it.
Nice, lovely to meet you too. I did not know you, so it was lovely to meet you.
Same here.
Yeah.
So it was very nice talking to you.
And I'll see you,
Thanks again,
Deborah.
Deborah, for helping me
I'll
out
see you soon.
and sending
Okay.
me stuff. And we'll do another interview when you guys put together the next album. Then.
Into the
will.
noise. Into the noise, Deborah.
Oh no,
All right.
no, I came up with a title. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Go ahead.
You want to hear it, Clay? From the source.
Oh. Okay.
All right.
We've
I was
gone
thinking
from the
that.
silence of grace into the
Yeah.
quiet from the source.
All right.
I'm gonna go. I'll
Isn't
see
that
you guys
cool?
later. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jill.
All right. Thank you very much, Jill, and thank you very much, Deborah, again for your help
Thank
and
you,
posting the
Claudio.
interviews and putting me in touch with a lot of great musicians out there all over the world, man.
Thank you so much for the time and really for your dedication to what is going on here, for the support of the artists. It is
No
so
problem.
appreciated, such a value. You really are a treasure in terms of doing what you do, and we just love that. And it gets the music out there. People get to hear about it. We share this
Yeah.
information with everyone.
Thank you.
Very important. So thank you.
Yeah. Say no, as I told you one day, I was born in Latin America and Chile, and my dad had a lot of music and it's thousand like your parents. So if it
Yeah.
wasn't for my dad, for the love of music, wouldn't be doing this stuff. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, but I always mention that interview. You know, the YouTube channel right now is generating profits right now because for the number of people that listen to the views, and the number of
Oh,
subscribing, and every single penny goes to charity.
that's
I don't
awesome.
make even 1 cent. You know, every month I receive a check, and then the money goes to local hospital charities and St.
That
Jude's
is so
Hospital all over the
beautiful.
world. So I do
That's
what I
awesome.
do because I love music. Music has given me so much satisfaction, and I'm passionate about this. And I'm not doing this for the money. So
And I had that from my father growing up, listening to all
yeah,
the music he loved so much.
absolutely. Right.
And we do this not because, like you said, it's not about so much the money. It's about
That's right.
the belief in the magic of what music can do for people.
Absolutely.
And this helps support that. So yes, we do share your interview. This interview will be shared by Jill and myself and by the label. We'll get it out to more people. It's wonderful. We love it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great day, Deborah.
I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.
You bet, man. Thank you.